And of course, Rob, they beat the team you and I both thought would win it all, the Clippers. And in the aftermath of that Clippers loss, which they were up 3-1, lost 3 straight games, a lot of stuff has come out in the aftermath. Sham Charania, who does a great job for The Athletic, he wrote that, they were having a post-series meeting in the locker room, or whether it was a meeting or just guys talking. And Paul Pierce was telling everybody, we got to come back next year, get ready for another run, all that type of stuff. And players were looking at him, rolling their eyes. Chris Haynes of Yahoo, friend of the show, he wrote that PG and Montrezl Harrell got into a heated exchange during a timeout in game 2. I said today, I've been told from people that, there's role players on the team who think they're as good as Paul George. Like and I've been told Doc gives special treatment to his stars, which would be Kawhi and Paul George. They can kind of deal with it with Kawhi because he delivers pretty much every night. Paul, though, 2 10-point games against Denver, a 9-point and 11-point, I think a 14 and a 15-point game as well against Dallas. Guys aren't understanding and feeling the extra treatment, special treatment he gets, treated like a star when they don't see him producing the way Kawhi does, or most are with the consistency of a star. And then our buddy Colin Cowherd on the great show, The Herd, he threw out today. Now, I don't think he's sourcing this or anything, but he just threw out he wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers decide to move away from Paul George this offseason. I got my thoughts on this, Rob. Where are you at on all this concerning Paul George and the Clippers?
I think it's all minutia, and this is what happens when you don't win, when there's expectations. There's going to be talk. You got to come up with a reason why, other than you didn't make shots, you didn't play like you were supposed to. Kawhi choked in Game 7, and so did Paul George. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I know winning teams who have had all the same stuff that you mentioned have the behind-the-scenes, stuff, Chris.
Shaq and Kobe is the greatest example. Yep.
I mean, so to people to pin that on it, that's why they weren't getting along, that's why they didn't win. If that's the story you want to write, no problem. But I know teams that won, and it was worse behind the scenes, and fights and pushing and, you know what I mean, disrespecting each other and all that. I've covered teams like that, so I know, and it doesn't shock me. None of it shocks me. I'm not surprised. But just like when LeBron lost to Dallas and they had the big 3 in Miami, you don't dig a hole and oh my God, how do we show our face? How do we play next year? You get better, you work on your game, and you come out and your talent, you play next year. I don't believe there's going to be any major changes. They'll have more time together. Maybe they won't be hurt, and they'll play a full season together, develop a little more chemistry, and when the time comes, they can get right back in the saddle and have a chance at it. So I hear all the stuff people are writing. I remember when the Pistons beat the Lakers, that was the excuse on why the Pistons won and the Lakers didn't. All those stories.
And there was truth to that.
No, I'm just saying.
But
the Pistons played. But the Pistons played well. I mean, they did. Yeah, whatever. They played well. So I've seen it before. That's all.
Nah, and in fairness, nobody's writing that was the cause of this, but it's just stuff that's going on. But I'm with you. There's talk that they want a playmaking point guard or guard at least. They certainly could use a little more size to back up Zubac. I like Zubac, but obviously their size or lack thereof against Denver was an issue. So they could stand to get some backup size. And, everybody can use more shooting because they went cold in the bubble. So they can use more shooting. But I think a few things that happen. Now, let me start with Paul George. Sure. I question now, and this is not off one postseason. This is off his playoff career. And he's obviously had some good moments, but he's had some bad ones. I got a few questions as to whether or not he's the second star on a championship team because he's very inconsistent in the playoffs. But unless I can get a better second star, I mean, who you trading him for? He's gonna make $35 million next year, $38 million the year after. So who you trading him for? I wouldn't do it as much as I like Chris Paul. Chris has been in LA. He's been with Doc. You know, he left in an unceremonious way. He's older. I wouldn't do that as much as I like Chris. I just don't see the trade that's out there for them. You know, and so I think, and I'm not so down on Paul, and I'm sure the Clippers aren't either, that it's like we got to move him. I mean, he's a great player. He's not a all-time great, but he is a perennial all-star legitimately. And so I'm fine with Paul George, but what has to happen, Rob, I believe two things. Number one, Doc, and this from talking to a lot of people around this, Doc's got to hold his stars accountable, meaning Kawhi and Paul George. And I'm not saying you got to jump on him and all that, but you got to coach him. Because what I'm told is that some of the players, you know, they see he doesn't really hold his superstars accountable. And this dates back to even when he had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and all that. But he'll jump and hold the role players accountable. But they're seeing that and looking at him funny, like, well, you ain't saying that to Paul. You don't say anything to Kawhi, but you're going to jump on us. So Doc's, and you know this, Rob, you've covered sports longer than me. There are times I've had coaches tell me that they'll go to their superstar before practice and say, look, I'm going to jump on you today. Now, it's nothing wrong. You ain't doing anything wrong, but I'm going to come at you hard today to show the other guys that I'm jumping on, you know, that I'm getting on you. If I can get on you, then I can get on them and they going to fall in line. And the stars goes along with it. If that's what you got to do, I get it. But that has to change. And then the second thing is I think Kawhi in Toronto, I feel like Kawhi was like a mercenary. He came in, I'm sitting out 22 games, but I'm here to ball. I'm here only pretty much a year, most likely. I'm on ball, and we gonna win. And that was it. And it worked in Toronto, I think mainly because, I mean, it was a good season even if they had lost the finals, but I think they won it because of the injuries in Golden State. But nevertheless, they won the championship and it's legit. And I think he thought that could work here. And I think that they need to have a different approach. He needs to be a little more engaged at practice, be a little more with the team. Not that there were issues as far as guys not getting along with him, but be a little more all in with the team. And unless, look, he just played however many games they played in the bubble in the playoffs. 7 and 6, I think it was. So 13 playoff games every other day. That's hard. That's more stringent than a regular season schedule. Because sometimes you get 2-3 days off between the game. And so that he was fine. I mean, he winded, it looked like, but he was fine physically as far as his knees and things like that. So if you can play, if Kawhi doesn't need the load management, play 73 games. Play 75 games, whatever. And play some minutes. Because he looked winded when he had to play 39 minutes in the playoffs, and he was only playing 32 in the regular season. So I think those things need to change. I think that'll set a different tone. I think that's more in line, Rob, with the identity they had last year when you fell in love with them for winning 2 games against Golden State. And so I think those are 2 things that need to change, even more so than the personnel changes.
Yeah, I think that there's things that they can work on to get better, and that's how you have to face it. You don't have to tear everything up and say, oh, my God, it's the end of the world. I just think that things happen that you would never have expected, especially the Kawhi Leonard part, which was unexpected.
Well, you were a prisoner of the moment.
I just thought that would – I would bet that I would play that game out 10 times, and 9 out of 10 he would not turn in a performance
Really?
Like he turned out. Yeah,
I don't think so.
Not that poorly.
I think he's great. I can't say 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I'm talking about
because he was short arming shots.
No, but he played poorly. He choked in that game.
He did play poorly.
I don't have him choking more than once in 10 games. So that's just me. And they'll go back to the drawing board and decide what they want to do. No, that's you. You do that on everything.
You're worse. You can never say that about me. James Harden, the best player in the world. Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the world.
Chris, we could go on and on and on.
Anthony Davis is the MVP of the Lakers. Stop it.
He is. That's not prisoner of the moment.
You are disqualified
I've been saying
from
that
calling
forever.
me a prisoner of the moment. What?
Everybody knows
Anthony Davis is the best Laker?
Everybody knows.
This is the first time you said that was after he hit that shot.
No, it's not. I said it before. Said it before. That his numbers were better than LeBron.
You said
all of his numbers were better than LeBron.
You didn't say he was the MVP of the Lakers.
Yes, he is.
Those are two different things.
It's in my column. You want me to go show it to you? The column I wrote on Deadspin 2 weeks ago.
James Harden was still the best player in the world.
At that time, he was.
Yeah, that 24-hour segment.
No, it wasn't 24 hours at that time.
Can the Clippers win it next year? And what do they need to do to put themselves in that position? 877-99 on Fox. Your turn to weigh in.
All right, Jabari in Michigan. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What you got?
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, I just want to say happy 2-year anniversary for you guys, and appreciate all the guys you guys do on the radio.
Man, thank you. Where are you in Michigan? Are you in Ann Arbor or Flint? Where are you?
Well, I would say Detroit, but I'm like Southfield, Lathrop Village side. That's where I'm at. I mean, you know how people start. Yeah, that's
suburban Detroit.
That's where I lived. Yeah. You know, I lived on 12 Mile.
Okay, yeah, I stay between 11 Mile and 12 Mile.
I stayed 12 Mile in Greenfield.
Okay. Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, I'm on Southfield Road. All right. So what I want to say there with the Clippers, I do believe the Clippers can win the championship next year, but what they have to do, there are three main things they have to do. They have to make sure they get set role players, glue guys, veterans, like someone like a Iggy, or get like a Jay Crowder, or make sure they have someone like a Marcus.
You don't think they had that this year? Montrezl Harrell, Landry Shamet, Beverly, Marcus Morris.
I think that it's all about what do you have, what's your role, set roles as. I just think that they had too many guys that had the same roles. Like Marcus Morris kind of like had the same role as Montrezl Harrell. Reggie Jackson kind of had like the same role as Lou Williams. I think they need to have people who can play a certain role so Kawhi and Paul George could do their thing. And speaking of Montrezl Harrell, I think that what they could do is use Montrezl Harrell and do a sign-and trade for Rudy Gobert. I really believe that Rudy Gobert could be a great piece for this team.
Why would Utah do that?
Well, guess what? They got to make a decision between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and I believe they're going to go after Donovan Mitchell. Why do I believe so? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because Donovan Mitchell at some point is going to get a max deal. He's going to get that contract extension, and they're going to make a decision whether
why can't they keep both?
Mitchell, why they keep it? Because at some point, the Utah Jazz, I believe the Utah Jazz are thinking, because of the relationship that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert went through this year, they're probably thinking
man, they look good until Game 5 of the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they were rolling.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, Jabari, thanks for the support. Appreciate you. Thanks. In Southfield, Michigan. Phil in Florida, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Phil?
Hey, what's up, Rob and Chris? Rob, thanks for being on my podcast again, man. I appreciate you.
No problem, Phil. Thanks for having me, and we appreciate your support for the show, my man.
Hello?
Did we lose you?
You there, Phil?
So yeah, I'm here, guys. I'm here. Sorry about that. So I think the big thing the Clippers need is somebody who can be vocal enough to push Kawhi around and show him that he needs to be led. He's a great number two, a great Robin, but not a great Batman. I'd love to see him get Chris Paul back.
I think he's a Batman player. He's obviously not a vocal leader.
That's right, but everybody's
they need a
not
vocal
that way.
Leader. Yeah, it doesn't have to, because Kyle Lowry was the vocal guy, right, in Toronto. But Kawhi was clearly the best player.
You don't need to. You're right. Everybody's not the same. Everybody. I remember in Detroit, people wanted Barry Sanders, Chris, to do. That's not Barry Sanders.
Right.
He was the leader by example and just played well. but he was not that guy. It's just some people can't do it. Chris in Michigan, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Chris?
How's it going, guys?
Doing good.
Bro?
I'm trying to become a regular here, so I keep calling in.
Where are you from
right.
in Michigan? I'm just curious. Where are you from?
I'm in Grand Rapids.
Okay, good. All right, go ahead. Yep.
Well, no, what I was going to say is I think the Clippers can win next year, but it's going to take Paul George to play better. And, I mean, as of late, we haven't really seen that in the playoffs. I mean, we saw it early, but it seems like ever since that leg injury, he hasn't really been the same. So I don't know if he can elevate his game like that. And then they're definitely going to need some size, too, because you got to think next year Golden State's coming back. The Nets are going to be right there with KD and Kyrie. So it's not going to get any easier.
Lakers, Denver.
No,
Denver going to probably be better.
Dallas will be better. I mean,
Right.
how can they not be better coming off
Right.
what they went through? So you know what, Chris, you're right. It's going to be even more as these other teams come back. It'll be, but that's what winning a championship is. It's not supposed to be easy or a cakewalk. You got to fight your way through it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.